of the Shea podcast. I am Big Lou. We have Vinny with us tonight, as always, and special guest this evening, Mr. James. James, say what's up, bud.
What's going on, everybody?
So, if you guys have been following us for a while, you know James is one of our close friends. He's been on our lives for a long time. He wanted to jump on the stream tonight just to say hello to everybody and give
Yes,
his
sir.
updates of the off season and kind of touch upon the topics we have for tonight. So getting it kicked off tonight. Um, let's start with our spring training updates and what's going on down in Port St. Lucie. So as we all know, Soto and Pete both arrived this week. Very exciting to have both of those guys back in camp. Soto for the first time arriving to Port St. Lucie, and Alonso after the big contract finally got finished. We are ready to go. So, James, Vin, thoughts on the big guys arriving to camp this year?
I think it's awesome, the fact that they're there so early now.
Yeah,
It's like it's great. Even like seeing the videos, it's such a different vibe around the Mets. I feel like for the first time in so long, the Mets are like a destination where people want to be. Seeing Soto, obviously, the big name that he is, we've seen him so much throughout his career. Seeing him in Washington and then last year with the Yankees, he seems like he's just having more fun already. They put that video out, and I know people were commenting early, him and Siri aren't going to work. But then you see him in the golf cart sitting with Siri, and like he was rubbing Marte's head. It's
yeah.
almost
That was
like
funny.
the culture that they created is just so different now, and it's so much fun to look forward to and bring more guys in.
Yeah. I'm
James?
It's exciting.
uh, just seeing everybody there. I said it when everything happened. Like this time, like just seeing videos of all the guys getting there early, getting ready to go. It's just like an awesome feeling. Like baseball's in the air, and just knowing that going into this season, the team we have, like this is a different vibe. This is a different, it's a different atmosphere in Port St. Lucie. So it's just really exciting to have everybody back, ready to go.
No, I agree. And Vin, I thought that was a great point what you mentioned about Siri and Soto and people speculating that they would have some issues going into the season and what would the culture of the locker room be around those two guys. And from day one, you can see that obviously that's just the media being the media and hyping up a story that really isn't a
Yeah,
story. So that
it was based off that one thing that happened last year,
Right.
where and it's just
Siri
listen,
jumped the home
it's New York
run.
media trying to just over like hype something doesn't really bother any of us,
no,
But
I
listen,
agree.
you said it, James, when we traded for Siri, that he could be kind of like this year's Iglesias if he
Yeah,
doesn't
he's like
come
a
back,
hype man,
where
and
he's like the hype
him and
man
Winker.
and the attitude and the
Yeah.
energy.
hmm Him and Winker, like both those guys, like I feel like their energy is just so contagious around the ball club, around the guys. So it's gonna be awesome. Like Siri's energy is like the guy looks like he goes 110% every single day. Like
It's
just
great.
it's gonna be awesome.
And I don't know if you guys saw that other article that came out, but I thought it was very interesting as well. They asked Aaron Judge about his thoughts about Soto coming to the Mets,
Yeah,
and Judge flat out he came out and said, "I'm not surprised. It's kind of where Soto always wanted to
Yeah,
be." So
that's
that's a statement.
that says a
That's
lot.
a statement by
well,
Judge. Yeah.
my
So
brother made a good point today. I don't mean to cut you off, Lou, but you brought up the Judge thing.
yeah, go ahead.
My brother made a good point today. He texted me and my other brother and said, remember when there was that whole thing, how Aaron Judge said that he couldn't get in contact with Soto because he changed his number?
Yeah,
So either one of two things. One, Soto just didn't give Aaron Judge his number because he didn't want to be there. Or two, Judge flat out lied because remember the night that Soto signed? And then later on, I think the next day, not too long after, it came out that Donovan Mitchell was on FaceTime with him.
yeah,
So either he didn't give him his number or Judge just really didn't reach out because if he changed his number, Donovan Mitchell had it pretty quick.
right.
So I think it's interesting. I know you don't like Sal Licata. I know you're not his biggest fan, but he said something pretty cool today. He said, because we weren't around, obviously, in the 80s to see the Keith Hernandez and Ron Darling rivalry. Ron Darling, Don Mattingly. This feels like this is going to be this generation's that. You got the two right fielders in New York, and it's almost setting up for like the next decade to be Soto and Judge rivalry, who could take their team further and who could ultimately win a World Series.
Yeah, and I think that I know Soto came out and said it in his opening press conference. You know, he's happy the way our farm system continues to improve year
Right.
after year, and you know that comes with sustained success and something that Cohen has really made a priority since taking over the team. Um, so it'll be interesting to see. But I think that you know we're in good shape. You know, that's a good transition to make to our next topic here. With the news coming down that Frankie Montas has officially hit the IL, he'll be sidelined for a couple of weeks here, probably all of spring training with the lat injury. It'll be interesting to see how they pivot. Do we have an in-house fix for the hole that Frankie Montas opens, or do we explore other options outside of the organization? So, James, thoughts on that? What do you think we
Yeah.
do here with Frankie going down?
So that's why there's such an emphasis on the depth in pitching and starting pitching especially, because you never know when stuff like this could happen. And right now, when you look at what we have in house, we do have the depth. We're going to go with the 6-man rotation. And I think that has a lot to do with Senga, just making sure Senga is fully there, fully healthy, ready to go every time he takes the ball. So you have options at the end of the rotation right now with Montas going down to fill that 5-6 spot, because you knew that 1 through 5 going into spring training now was going to be Mania, Senga, Peterson, Montas, and Clay Holmes.
Right.
And that 6th spot was up for grabs between, I believe, McGill, Blackburn, and Canning, who we signed. So you have the depth in the organization right now. I guess if you want to start the season with those guys, but there are other options you can explore. Like there was already rumors of us going after Dylan Cease, going after Michael King. I don't think King now is going to get traded, but Cease is still an option. Um, you also have guys out there. This has been mentioned a lot since this happened. Jose Quintana's out there. This is a guy who was in the organization the past 2 years. Um, you can go out and just give him the 1 year deal, give him a chance. And then obviously we talked about this. We talked about who you have in the minor leagues. I think right now, obviously Brandon Sproat's the guy. I look at it similar to Christian Scott last year. This is a guy that's going to start in AAA. I'm sure he's gonna be really good in AAA, and eventually, even with the guys we had, I thought eventually that Sproat will get the call this year, and I still believe that. Because if you're a top prospect like that, you're starting in AAA, you pitch good, you're going to get the call. They're going to find starts for you.
Right.
So we'll see what we have there. There is options. That's the good thing about having the depth in the organization is there's options. You don't need to worry about filling that hole. The only thing that kind of sucks is that Montas is not going to get a spring training. So when
Yeah.
he comes back, who knows what he's going to be. That's the only thing that's questionable.
Right. Vin?
The good thing that I feel about Montas is it happened early enough where they could shut him down and not really have to rely on him. Let's say, if it happened later on in the second half of the year. I feel like we did kind of dodge a bullet that the lat wasn't torn. And he throughout his career he's pretty much been an innings eater. So I think Montas, it happening now, it gives us the flexibility. Like James said, we have guys that even if it turns out to be a month into the season where he's got to get his starts in the minor leagues, get rehab starts, whatever it is, even if that takes a month into the season, I think they're set up depth-wise where they could not have that kill them, and he comes back fully healthy, and he does what he's done his whole career. He eats up innings, and I think he'll be solid. As far as like where to fill it, I think we'll see Sproat. I'm not really a fan of bringing Quintana back.
Yeah, it's just an option. That's really
I know like where people are going with that. I feel like Tyler McGill just keeps resurfacing no matter what. This guy he comes around more than COVID. it's like he just can't. He just won't go away. But listen, he came back last year in the second half and he pitched good for them. So knock on wood. That's the worst thing we have to deal with this spring. So I'm not too stressed out about Montas. I think we'll be okay there.
And I think we have the opportunity to see Sproat. This obviously gives him a bigger chance to start earlier in the season. But at the same time, I do think they want to see how he pitches in AAA. Not having the greatest couple of outings once reaching the AAA level there last year. Obviously, much improved. They say that he has improved this offseason, so I think he will get the start in AAA. But it'll be interesting to see him in these spring training games. I think this gives him the opportunity to get a couple more starts in spring where we might have only seen him come out of the pen in spring training, but I think this gives him the opportunity to start a couple spring training games that I don't think he would have gotten before Frankie got hurt.
Yeah, which is good for the organization and it's good for him because we
I
get
agree.
to see him, and if he does get starts in spring training early, against team starters, it could be good.
Right.
Maybe he comes out and he shoves. Maybe
Yeah.
we see what he has to work on. So I think for somebody like Sproat and somebody that the Mets have high expectations for, this will be good for him and them.
Yeah.
I definitely agree. I definitely agree. But really, not too much other than that going on down in Port St. Lucie. It's still very early. Of course, the whole fan base is very excited to see Soto there. I thought his opening press conference was good. I thought he addressed a lot of the things that we talked about for months. I think he kind of came out and said that this is where he wanted to be. He obviously likes the direction that the organization is going in. And then we all heard his comments about, I think he kind of came out and said that this is where he wanted to be. He obviously likes the direction that the organization is going in. And then we all heard his comments about how he is very comfortable here. They like the way that the team treats, the families, and that was a big selling point for him. So his opening statements were positive. It seems that he's happy to be here. Obviously, he signed the deal. But really not too much else going on down in Port St. Lucie. So any final thoughts before we move on? Vin, any other thoughts before we move on to the next topic about spring training so far?
It depends on what the next topic is because I don't want to step on your toes with the next topic.
No, I mean,
what are we talking about next? Because I want to address Alonso's press conference.
So go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah.
All right. Listen, I said this on last week's episode. I'm happy Alonso's back because it makes us better in 2025. Putting him in the middle of the lineup, I think he's set to have a big year. But at the same time, we spoke about this before he signed. The one thing I didn't want to hear was it was always the Mets, it was always this, it was always that. Listen, I'm glad he's back. He's glad he's back, obviously. But it wasn't always the Mets because he turned down 2 contracts from them, trying to get more money. The only reason it ended up coming back to the Mets and ended up working out for us was because he had absolutely zero market. In the end, it worked out for us, but just don't feed us with the nonsense. It was always the Mets. It was always this. Listen, you're back. It worked. Hopefully, it works out for everybody, but you don't have to go over the top with all the nonsense in the press conference.
Yeah, I'm sure the Mets were always to me. I think the Mets were his first option. It's just like he's turned down that first contract, however long it was. But the Mets stood still really on what they were offering him, and it definitely was more so obviously about the money. At the end of the day, that's what you desire when you hit free agency. It's about getting that deal that you really desire, you really want. And unfortunately, he did not get that. Obviously, we've seen this with Scott Boras clients. They tend to overvalue, or I don't
Right.
know, Boras himself does it, or the player, or both combination. They tend to overvalue what they're really worth. And it turns out to be this huge thing where, you're going to be into free agency into late January, February, and you're not going to get the deal you want. You're going to have to settle. We've seen it right now with Pete. We saw it with Bregman. Bregman wanted a 6-year deal.
Yeah.
He didn't get it. We saw it last year with Snell and Chapman.
And Montgomery.
Chapman. Look at and I think Pete, this is a pure example. Matt Chapman is a pure example of what we could see. Now with Pete, we saw it with with Bregman. Bregman wanted a 6-year deal.
Yeah,
He didn't get it. We saw it last year with Snell and Chapman.
and Montgomery.
Chapman. Look at what, and I think Pete. This is a pure example. Matt Chapman is a pure example of what we could see. We've seen a guy who wanted this amount of money. He goes into the season. He performs, plays really well. He gets the contract he wanted in the middle of the year. Who knows if maybe we Cohen talked about this today, saying that they're open for business if Pete wants to do that. So all we can do is just hope that Pete comes out. He does what he has to do, and you look at this lineup. He was a missing piece, and I'm just glad he's back just for this season, just to see him, behind Soto or 2 spots behind Soto, whatever. It's just him and Soto in that lineup meshing well because I think they're gonna feed off each other. They complement each other well in the lineup.
He
So it's just good
is,
to have
and
him
he's
back.
going to break the all-time record for as a Met and
Yeah,
all
and
that.
that's the fans are gonna. We're all gonna be so into that. That's when it comes
Yeah,
down to that. When it happens, like that's gonna be something we're all we're gonna talk about.
and
You know.
I think the perspective of the fans is that if he would have walked this year, a season before he has the opportunity to break that record, it leaves a really sour taste in the fan base, fan base's mouths, and the fact that we could have had our all-time home run leader, as part of this team. But now that he's here for this year, at least, if he does go out, which we all expect that he will go out and break that home run record, I think that ripping the band-aid off next season and then getting a guy like Vladdy, it becomes a little bit easier next year.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see how the reception is, once he breaks the home run record, and then what the general consensus is if Pete decides to opt out and start this whole cycle all over again. What would be the fan base's perspective next season compared to this season? So it'll be interesting to
All
see.
right,
Yeah.
we have our first question because I'm also live on TikTok. We
Okay.
have our first question from TikTok. Peter says if the Blue Jays are out of it by the deadline, can you see the Mets acquiring Vlad and move Pete to DH for a few months?
So, do you want to go? Thing. Sorry, go.
Well, I know me and Lou talked about this earlier on the phone, on FaceTime. We were saying that there's so many options if the Blue Jays are out of it and you do go acquire Vlad at the deadline, whether it be Vlad DH or, and I'm not saying permanently, but if Vlad has to start at third to give Vientos a day off, or Pete DHs, but there's so much flexibility with these guys that I think if you look at the situation with Pete, the contract that he signed, it's almost like the Mets hold all the cards, and the Mets hold all the cards in this situation because they could tell Pete, you're going to DH or you're not. If you opt in and you're going to DH. If not, good luck on the open market again. We saw how that went. But if they're out of it and they'd be smart to move Vlad at the deadline because it doesn't seem like they're going to be agreeing on a contract this year, I think the Mets will be in for him. They checked in on him this past off season when the whole thing was going on with Pete, and I think that's the guy next year that Cohen really has his eyes on to really fill out this lineup.
That's going to be the story of the deadline. It's going to be flat. It's going to be because I
Yep.
don't. The Blue Jays when you look at their roster, they have a good pitching staff. Their lineup lacks the depth, so I believe they will be out of it at the deadline, and that's going to be the story of the deadline. Or is Vladimir Guerrero Jr. going to get traded? And I look at it as if you're going to go and get a guy like him, if you're going to go just get him, you're going for it.
Yep.
You're all in. Like it's World Series or bust at that point. And to me, he's a bat that in a half of a season, whatever it is, you make that room for at DH, at first base, whatever you have to do. Because if you put him in this lineup with these guys, it's going to be crazy. And this is going to be a team that you look at that guys are going to be scared. You can match up with the Dodgers, with a guy like Vlad if you put him at DH, first base, whatever you have to do. And I think that would be terrific. Like if you
Yeah,
can
and I
just
know
go
you
out and
mentioned it, James, in the offseason. You said that at the deadline, if Vlad's going to be available, we could go and, like you said it a few months ago, maybe you give up a little less by taking on
yeah,
Gossman's whole contract,
yeah,
and
got it.
you could
And
always use a pitcher at the deadline.
we're gonna need. I believe. I look at the rotation right now. Our rotation. I think it's a good rotation. and I think it's a rotation you can get through the regular season and make the playoffs with. But when you get to the playoffs and you play those teams, I think you're going to need that front of the line guy that's going to go out and shove in the game one. So that makes a lot of sense. And you never know. Also, God forbid, like injuries happen. Like you never know, like where we're going to be at by the deadline, and like where Vlad would make more sense. But even if you just look at it with the roster we have now, uh, it's Vladimir Guerrero Jr. You make if you're gonna go and you're
Yeah,
gonna get that, you're gonna get him,
you
and you're
said
gonna make it work.
it perfect. You have a chance to get a guy like Vlad, you figure it out and
Yeah,
you make it work.
especially just for half the season
Right.
to go and try to win a World Series. You figure it out. You
So
know,
so this is what we all want to happen, right? We all want this to happen at the deadline. Obviously, if the Blue Jays are completely out, I think that we would be the number one contender, not only to trade for him, but also to sign him long term.
Right.
And I think trade for him, but also to sign him long term.
Right.
And I think it really gives us an advantage of going into next offseason. If he is here for the second half of the year, hopefully with a playoff appearance and then a deep playoff appearance, that gives us that one up on everybody else when going to resign him long term.
I,
Knowing,
I I really agree. I agree with that as far as you I see I always feel like, and I think you hit it on the head, Lou, you get the guy here.
yeah,
You put him in the
yep,
clubhouse, you
yep.
let him get to know the guys, and the same way Soto was convinced, the same way all these guys talk about the family atmosphere that the Mets have. You put Vlad for a half a season in a pennant race in a clubhouse with Soto, Lindor, Vientos, Alvarez, all these guys, Siri, that's another spark plug, possibly Acuna. You put them all together for a half a season, and you give Vlad a taste of what we hope
With
is a
Alonso,
repeat of what we did last
with
year.
Alonso batting behind him. Because then if we
Yeah,
get Vlad, he goes to
he
the 3 spot. You still have
goes to
Alonso at the
three,
four
one through
spot.
four.
yeah,
Yeah, 1 through 4, and then you move Vientos 5 or Nimmo 5, Vientos 6, whatever it is. Like, oh my
yeah.
gosh,
You
like
you have a chance to
there's no
get Vlad
hole.
at the deadline. I'm all for it. Nothing stops you from making that move. I don't care
Just
who's unhappy, whose feelings get hurt.
100%.
You go get
For
Vlad.
half a season, you
And
go for it, dude.
and if you're the Blue Jays ownership, like Vlad's a superstar. There's no question that he's
Yep.
not. But if you're the Blue Jays ownership and you go back and you look, just as an example of, you look at what happened to the Angels with Otani, and they
Yep.
didn't trade him at the All Star break, and then they got nothing back for him, and now you're seeing what he's doing in LA. You have to get prospects back for Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Like if you know we have no shot in this, you got to get a hold back for him, and
Well,
we have the prospects to go ahead and trade for him.
this is like the whole thing going back to the family thing. We
Mhm.
have Vlad's brother in the organization. You
Yeah,
know,
Yeah,
his father is clearly around the Mets with his
right.
brother being here. But I think, and I know James for the almost the better part of a year and a half has been talking about how he wants that Spanish culture in the
oh, dude, I was
clubhouse.
about to mention that when you were mentioning all the guys, listing all the
Well, that's
guys.
why I didn't name Alonso and Nimmo as big as they are for this team. There's something to that. You watch like the Dominican Republic play in the World Baseball
Oh,
Classic
dude, the
and
atmosphere
Puerto
is
Rico play in the World Baseball Classic, and the
it's
atmosphere is just completely out of this world.
it's like
It's like nothing
second to
we
none,
see
bro.
in the major leagues.
Hmm.
So if that's what it takes to put him with Soto, with Lindor, with Alvarez, with Vientos, with Acuna, see it right on down the list, I'm doing it. Down the list, I'm doing it. I don't care what it takes to get him here. Give him that taste of it, and then we go from there.
And Soto mentioned about the Latin presence, and
It's real.
it's something I've been talking about for since like the 2023 offseason. I looked at the roster, I'm like, to spice it up to like get some energy into this team, into the ballpark, because obviously we came off a down year in 23. I'm like, I want the Latin guys like those because I'm watching the World Baseball Classic and just the atmosphere and like
Yeah,
the energy, the passion these guys play with is
it's real.
second to none. It's unbelievable. And Solo mentioned it in the interview that he did. It's and I love like when I look down the team from the manager to the roster now. We have that presence, and it's going to be hopefully that turns into an electric atmosphere at City Field also now.
Yeah, I think there's something to it, and especially even further up, you have Mendoza in the
Yeah.
clubhouse now, and he gets
Mm-hmm.
it. A lot of people were worried about Mendoza early on in the year last year, but
Including me.
I feel
Yeah.
like things changed when you started to see Lindor as almost like his right hand man
Mm-hmm.
on the step with him in the dugout, and I feel like there's bottom line is you put Vlad in this clubhouse.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, James, I know you mentioned it the other day when we were speaking. Um, Listen, at the deadline, yeah, I think we'll be the favorite at the deadline to get him. But long term, there's going to be other big time teams that are in on him. It's not just
Oh
going to be
yeah.
us.
There will be.
Oh yeah.
But I think that we're definitely the favorites once he hits free
If
agency.
we have so much flexibility, and obviously we have the owner to like if there's a guy like that you really that if Steve Cohen really wants him and
Yeah,
they really want to put out a bid for him, we're going to be the favorites to get that guy. At the end of the day, that's just how it is nowadays. Unless obviously the Dodgers want to get somebody, and that's whatever they do is just ridiculous. But if Steve wants a guy, he'll go and say, "I want this guy. I'll pay this. I'll pay that."
I
So
agree.
Absolutely.
you know, we'll see. We'll see by free agency, or who knows, even the deadline. Maybe Steve steps in, like, let's get this guy here. Let's go win this thing. You know?
Yeah,
Hmm.
absolutely.
Yep.
All right, so I thought that was a great topic. Like I said, it's only week two. Actually, is it the end of the first full week? Yeah, the end of the first full
Yeah.
week of
Hmm.
spring training. So all good things as of now. Obviously, besides the Frankie Montas news. But let's transition a little bit. Let's have a little fun. Vin, I know me and you spoke earlier, and we have a post coming out on Instagram. Just speaking a little bit more about the Mets history and tapping into our past and how we grew up, obviously being diehard Met fans. And we played a little game, and tapping into, our past and how we grew up, obviously being diehard Met fans. And we played a little game, listing our all time favorite lineups of players that we've seen in person.
Right.
Not, we're not going back, before we were born, just players who we've seen in an all-time lineup that we think would top the cake. So
But yeah, whether it be your favorite player that you just wanted to
yeah,
put in there, or
yeah.
but
Or the
Of
we
course.
had
better
to see
player,
them
yeah.
play. We had to act like we couldn't put like Tom Seaver as the starting
Right.
pitcher.
And now that James is here, it's going to be interesting to see what James has to say
Yeah.
because he hasn't
I
seen
am the
some of the guys
judge.
play
I
that
am the
Right.
we've seen
judge.
play.
That's true.
So it'll be interesting to see what he has to say. So do you want to go ahead and show yours, and then we'll compare it to mine, and
Well,
then obviously,
I'll just read it off for you.
go ahead.
All right. So I had leading off playing shortstop Lindor. Uh, I had Soto in right field. I had Beltran in center. Piazza catching. Delgado at first. David Wright at third. Alonso DHing. This is where, when I told my brother this, he was like, "What are you, crazy?" But the guy I picked for left field was one of my favorite hitters to ever watch growing up. He only spent a little bit of time on the Mets, but he's got their single season all time hit streak record. I'm going to put Moises Salou in left field. I'm going to put Edgardo Alfonso at second. And my starting pitcher is going to be DeGrom. My bench was LaDuca, Reyes, Nimmo, and another guy that I had to just get on the team somehow because he was one of my favorite players growing up was Ray Ordonez.
All right, listen, that's obviously a loaded lineup, right? Obviously, interesting your choice there, Delgado over Alonso. Why did you choose to do that?
Because I feel like in that '06 season, and this isn't a knock on Alonso, we don't do what we do if it wasn't for Delgado. And then if you remember before, unfortunately, that collapse in '07, when everybody said Delgado was done, they got to get rid of him, he went on an absolute tear in the second half of that
Yeah,
season. So
no, he did.
I definitely wanted Delgado in the lineup, and I decided to DH Pete.
Okay, all right. James, any thoughts on the lineup?
So you could say your lineup, and then
All right, so
yeah,
Vin,
because I'm
you
a
have the
Mets
graphic.
fan.
I don't have it up. Do you want to go ahead and read mine off?
Yeah, I'll read off Lou's. Lou said Lindor, Soto, Beltran, Piazza catching, uh, Delgado at first, Wright at third, Alonso DHing, Cespedes in left. That's where we differed. Alfonso at second, and he also differed. Alfonso at second, and he also said he would have Pedro starting with Laduca, Reyes, Cliff Floyd, and Ray Ordonez on the bench.
Yeah. I had to put Pedro on the mound.
I know you love him.
Listen, 05, Pedro's my favorite pitcher of all time. It's not even close. He's just, in my opinion, the greatest pitcher to ever do it. It's interesting to see that how our benches differ. I put Cliff Floyd on the bench. You put Nimmo on the bench. I just think Cliff Floyd's impact, like you said, in those couple of years were awesome. He was great for us until he had that foot/ankle injury. I love Cliff Floyd. He just an awesome Met. But overall, like I said, you can't, whether you put DeGrom or Pedro on the mound, you can't lose. That's a win-win. You could have went somebody crazy. Like, people love Matt Harvey, so I could see people putting Harvey on there. And then obviously even a guy like, you go back a little further, for the older viewers, Seaver, Jesse Roscoe, like goes like that, Dwight, obviously. So yeah, very cool. Keep an eye out for the posts on our pages, guys. Drop a comment on that post. Let us know what you think of your all-time favorite lineup. James, is there anybody
this is where it gets interesting.
Yeah.
So this is interesting because I was born in '99, so I didn't see. Piazza was my first true memory of the Mets, and then David Wright was my guy growing up.
But here's the question: was he just a memory, or did you actually see him play?
Piazza, I saw him play.
Okay.
Yeah, all right. I was going to City Field, Shea Stadium when I was 3, 4, 5. I remember vividly like watching Piazza, and I was also there when he returned.
Gotcha.
As a Padre, I was at that game. I was 7 years old, I think. I remember going to that game.
Awesome.
But my thing is, I don't remember Edgardo Alfonso as much from those times. So when it comes to that, second base to me is weird because when the Mets were good in the middle 2000s, that was the one position that was always flip flopping. You had Valentin, Ruben Gotay, right? I remember him.
Luis Castillo.
So for me, it has to be because of that 2015 team, Daniel Murphy. It has to.
I figured
Murphy's going to be my second baseman because of what he did in 2015.
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, Murphy, the one he had in 15 was unbelievable.
Yeah. And I would agree with Lou on Cespedes in left field. I understand.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah,
I understand why Vin put Alou. That makes a ton of sense because you want to also make it, like Vin said, you mix up your favorite guys, the greats that were throughout those times, and your favorite players. So, like, I would agree with that. I'm putting DeGrom on the mound, obviously. Like, DeGrom is, like, that's the greatest pitcher I've ever seen with my own eyes.
He was unbelievable.
Prime DeGrom. It was just every night you expected something great from him. And it was.
Remember the game we were at?
We were at the 2021, and he struck out, what, like 15 nats?
Something like that.
Game?
Yeah, it was
and he had a 2-run double. Like, it's insane. 2021 DeGrom, a full season, he runs away with the NL MVP.
Yeah.
Runs away. Because Harper won it. Harper wasn't even an all-star. First, he just had a good second half, I guess, or whatever. I don't remember too much of that, but I just remember, like, DeGrom would have ran away in 2021 with that MVP. Other than that, like, I agree on the Alonso Delgado thing. The DH Alonso, Delgado first base. David Wright's obviously in there for me.
Yeah.
Lindor's been my favorite player since I was in high school, like when he was with Cleveland. And the fact that he's on the Mets now is still crazy to me because I have all his jerseys. Puerto Rico, I love the guy. So, like, that's always been my guy even before the Mets. Soto, biggest contract in the history of the Mets, doesn't have to play a game. He's going to be a Hall. He doesn't have to play a game. He's going to be a Hall of Famer, and Lord willing, he goes into the Hall of Fame now that he's here with the Mets cap on. So that's going to be just exciting. We're not even there yet.
Well, that's what. It was funny when me and Vinny were making the list. We were like, "Can we put Soto on the list? Like, he hasn't played.
Yeah.
We haven't seen him yet."
Soto goes on the list.
This is a guy
put him on the list,
bro. We're going to be going to games for the next 10, 15 years, obviously now, going to watch this guy play.
Yep.
It's just surreal to think about.
I can
And
give
I
you
mentioned to you, Lou.
750 million reasons why Soto made my list.
I
He's
mentioned to you, Lou.
lit.
I hope my hope this season is going to go to a game and see
Oh,
Soto hit a home run. Like that's all. That's like my main thing this season is go to a game, watch Juan Soto hit a home run.
yeah,
That's something I want to see.
we're definitely
Um,
gonna see that. Yeah.
so Beltron center field, yes. What else was there? Second
You
base I
said
mentioned
third, you
left
said
field.
short, you said second, first, right. Did you pick a left fielder?
Oh, Cespedes.
Cespedes.
Cespedes. You
So
took Piazza.
my
Okay,
bench is
yeah,
definitely
DeGrom.
Reyes is definitely on my bench. I'll go Laduca. See, I remember a lot more of like the Darno
Okay.
era. But I get Laduca. Laduca was awesome for the time he was here. He felt like Laduca don't get a lot more of like the Darno
Okay.
era. But I get Laduca. Laduca was awesome for the time he was here. He felt like Laduca don't I don't have like too much memory of that, but like he felt like a leader. Like, if I remember correctly, he was a leader of this team.
He was
Like just
an all star.
Yeah,
when he
you know
got
what it
here,
was,
he was
James?
a good big influence on guys like Wright. I know.
I'll compare LaDuca to how you said guys like Siri or that spark plug.
Yeah.
That was
That was
LaDuca
Laduca.
for that
Jay,
06 team.
Vin, when watching that documentary the other day, I sent it in our group chat. I didn't realize that Julio Franco was 47.
Yeah.
47.
Yep.
Hmm.
I'm 33. I can't get off the couch. That's
Yeah,
great.
he was great for us.
What happened?
Great for us. He had a lot of big hits that year.
He was unbelievable that
Yeah.
year.
Yeah.
It was crazy. But I didn't realize. I guess I was in high school back then. I didn't realize it was 47.
Yeah.
That's crazy. All right. So, like I said, keep an eye out for those
Yeah,
posts. Vinny
James,
and I
when
will be
you get a chance,
okay.
text me your lineup and I'll collab with you and Lou on the post.
All right. Cool.
Yeah. So we'll definitely get those up. We'll post those. Look out for those, and leave your comment, drop a like. Let us know what you think of the favorite lineup. All right, Vin. The moment has come. Are you ready?
This is the blind ranking.
Yeah. So
What am I blind ranking?
what happened?
What am I blind ranking?
So top five. These are 5 Mets pitchers of any era, and you're gonna rank them. So top 5 pitchers.
I want some random names in there.
Random.
That's
Oh
gonna be
no. They're
crazy.
not totally random.
Oh,
They're not totally
I
random.
want I wanted like John Maine or something like
No.
that.
All right, you'll see.
Mike
But all right.
Pelfrey.
So what Vin's gonna do? He's gonna blind rank these top 5 Mets pitchers in his order, 1 to 5. So ready, Vin? You ready?
Okay.
All right. So are you writing it down? You want me to write it down?
You write it down.
Okay. Here we go. Vinny's number 1. Number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. Pitcher number 1, R.A. Dickey.
Oh, all right. I feel like for the time here, he was so good.
Cy Young, 20 wins. Where you putting him?
Back to back one hitters,
Yep.
but I feel like you gotta put better guys here. So I'm gonna say, oh man, I'll say 3.
Every time the first guy's always in the middle on these blind rankings.
Because I feel like he could
Every
be.
time.
I feel like R.A. Dickey could be 5 or 1, depending on who he gives me.
All right. R.A. Dickey in the 3 spot. Here we go. Next one. Matt Harvey.
Oh man, you know how I feel about Matt Harvey. Oh man, you know how I feel about Matt Harvey. Oh, maybe I should have put R.A. Dickey 4.
That's what I would have done, Ben. I was thinking 4. I
Matt
was thinking 4.
Harvey. I'll say he's better than R.A. Dickey. You know what? I'm gonna say 4 because even though I do love Matt Harvey, the injuries killed him, and I think the 2 seasons that R.A. Dickey gave us, winning the Cy Young, I'll put Matt Harvey 4.
Okay. All right. Matt Harvey 4.
I really hope like DeGrom and Dwight Gooden are on this.
So you have R.A. Dickey 3, Matt Harvey 4. Here we go. Next one. Ready?
Okay.
Nolan Ryan. Tricky one.
Ooh.
Nolan Ryan.
People forget how good he was in that '69 World Series.
I know. People also forget that we traded him immediately after the season.
Yeah, I know.
Sometimes I forget he even won a World Series because after that he didn't win one. You know, he had such a long career.
1, 2, or 5 for Nolan Ryan.
You know what? Because of his name and because he helped win a World Series, I'll put him at 2.
Okay, Nolan.
Yeah, here comes John Maine and Oliver Perez.
No. Here we go. Ready?
Okay.
Al Leiter.
Oh man. Who's the last guy?
I can't tell you that. I can't say that. That ruins the game. 1 of 5 for Mr. Leiter.
All right, I'm gonna trust that you don't completely screw me here. God, because it could be like if I put him at 5 and the number 1, the last one's DeGrom, I'm screwed. But if I put him at like,
you only put him in 2 places.
1 of 5.
1
for Al Leiter.
Come on,
and number 5.
Pitcher, Lou.
Huh?
Give me a shit.
No, Johan Santana.
Oh.
Hey, you know what? Outside the no hitter, I'm whatever. He's number 5. Yeah, I have
not terrible.
Attachment to Johan. Listen, I know how great he was in his career. Outside the no hitter, I have no real emotional attachment to him as a Met. So
not terrible. So you have Leiter at the 1. You have Leiter at the 1. Okay. Nolan Ryan at the 2. Ari Dickey at the 3. Matt Harvey at the 4, and Johan Santana at the 5.
Not bad.
Not bad.
That's
not
bad.
terrible.
Not terrible.
You survived our first round of blind rankings. There you go.
Not. I could have done a lot worse.
Definitely could have.
Yeah, wait.
100%.
Wait till I.
One.
I could have done a lot worse.
Definitely could have.
Yeah, wait.
100%.
Wait till I.
So next week, Vin, you pick a topic, you get 5 names, and then I'll blind rank them next week. Okay. All right, James. Would you have changed that list in any way? Would you have changed that list?
So did Santana was 5?
Santana was 5.
I would have went. Man, that's tough.
I tried to find guys that like had an accomplishment with the team, but like.
No, that was good. Like, those are 5 good names.
Like I didn't want to put like 5 out of top 5. You know.
Leiter 1, Ryan 2, Dickey 3, Harvey.
I would have moved Harvey a little bit.
I like Leiter 1. Leiter 1's fine. Dickey 2, Harvey 3, Santana 3, Harvey 4, Nolan 5.
All right, I like it.
3 and 4 is tough right there. Santana and Harvey.
Yeah, that's
obviously
tough.
Santana had the no hitter. Harvey just had the aura.
and helped pitch us to a World Series.
Yeah, right. I mean,
very cool. But that's why we do the blind rankings. You know, I think that's something cool that we can add to the show.
Dude, like Harvey Day, man.
Harvey Day,
that wasn't just a Mets thing. That was a baseball thing.
Yeah,
you know, like that was nothing.
The
nothing
Dark Knight, that was crazy.
When Matt Harvey pitched, it was an event.
Yeah, definitely. So, we did the blind rankings. The last thing I want to talk about, Vin. We've been on for about 45 minutes now. We'll start to wrap it up. We will be doing another giveaway next week.
Yes.
So stay tuned for week 3 of the Shea podcast. Our second giveaway will be next week. We'll be posting that on our Instagrams throughout the week. So keep an eye out for that. And our page we had a huge accomplishment today, Vin.
Yeah.
You know, one goal that we said going into the season, as we continue to grow the page and we continue to expand the fan base of our little podcast we have going here. One goal was to make a reel that gets 75,000 views.
Blew past that.
If you would have told me that we would have done that the first week of spring training, I would have thought you were crazy. I thought we had to wait for like a big home run or like Soto's first home run.
And that's the cool thing. It had nothing to do with Soto, had nothing to do with Lindor, had nothing to do with Alonso.
And, you know, I was watching an old video on the 2006 Mets and just had some feeling about growing up in Shea. I was like, you know what? I always see these videos of like the late 80s, the 90s, like nostalgia videos. I was like, let me go ahead and piece something together. And I slept in a little bit late this week today because we're off this week from work, Vinny and I, and videos. I was like, let me go ahead and piece something together. And I slept in a little bit late this week today because we're off this week from work, Vinny and I, and I'm like, Vinny's text message was like, "Yo, we got 56,000 views." I was like, and then it just kept going and going and going, and that's a thanks to you guys, and me and Vinny appreciate it, and continue to support the pages, and every like and follow and comment means a lot. So thank you guys as always. Check out that reel. It's the last one. We pinned it to the page. It's
Yeah.
just an old video from Shea Stadium, and we love it just as much as everybody else. So thank you guys for that. We really appreciate it. So let's wrap it up. This is episode 2 of the Shayless podcast. Stay tuned for episode 3. James, thank you so much for hopping on today.
Thanks
You
for
are
having me.
always welcome here.
Yes, sir. Sure.
And stay tuned. Vinny and I are meeting Jose Reyes this Sunday. So we'll put up some videos and pictures from that. We're looking forward to meeting the great Jose Reyes. So thank you guys so much. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And we'll be back next Tuesday from the Shayless podcast. See you later, guys.